American Safety Act of 2020 is a petition to enact a bill by legislation of Congress to implement a law that will make Americans safe again. The American Safety Act of 2020 is a four-phase pact and contract with the American government to protect the American citizens from a recurring epidemic like COVID-19. The first place should be evidently clear the need of an immediate suspension law, federally mandated, perhaps a new agency to manage a potentially high-risk area or areas confronting a peril circumstance like the coronavirus. Those zones, including properties and territories, any adjacent areas would be prohibited from boarding flights entering the U.S. and leaving the U.S. The prohibition also pertains to their properties and territories that may be contaminated. This law needs to be made ineligible for a presidential executive order to overturn, affirming federal guidelines to vanquish any federal and state law not to enact as a law of the land, but hereby a bipartisan stand to make America safe again and forevermore. The second phase of the pact might be rare. However, I am sure it is feasible and achievable. This can be completed in less than 3 months with an estimate of $80 billion to $100 billion to our American government to ensure the safety of all our Americans by having a biohazmat suit made for all U.S. citizens. Having to adjust to a little uneasiness and anomalies of these suits will be minute obstacles to overcome. Sacrificing for a better good, knowing you, loved ones, extended families, and our communities would generally be safe. Visualize this as a way of knowing you can safely commute to and from work and interact with people in a secure manner. This includes your family, your community, and all of your loved ones are going to generally be safe. Just think of this relief knowing you have the safety net of the hazmat suits along with the face mask for every American. The resolve would be that U.S. government would appoint 13 nonprofit U.S. companies to make these biohazard suits for all U.S. citizens. This number represents the original 13 colonies. The anticipation to place multiple nonprofit companies in the states most impacted will aid and generate a dire need to boost today's economy. The operation of these companies would be 24/7, paying the employees $20 to $25 an hour, hiring additional American employees if needed. And once the first 10,000 suits are made, this will ensure that new hires will be protected while making biohazmat suits. In excess, including overtime pay when deemed necessary for overtime. In about 3 months, every U.S. citizen will be guaranteed a suit. No matter your legal status, if you are within the American boundaries, law of the land, you will be granted a suit. This would be in excess of about 20 to 30 million suits made. Afterwards, the appointed 13 companies should be placed on a list to get an American contract for their patriotic duties. The third phase is the most daunting task that needs to be done. Employ an investigative team to do an extensive investigation here and around the world to find whoever is responsible. Having this petition will assist in financing an investigative team. In addition, the funds will be used to advertise the American Safety Act of 2020. We need resolve. Americans are still mourning, and people throughout the world. Everyone is still hurting and will be suffering long-term with physical and emotional anguish because of this pandemic brought on by the coronavirus. All of the U.S. have been victimized to no fault of their own. This atrocious virus came into our home, our schools, our workplace, and our parks. It made us prisoners. We are supposed to be one of the freest people on the planet. It single-handedly took away one of our finest and dearest amendments, along with our sanity to feel free and safe in our own homes, in peace and time, and with no fault of our own. The responsible individual is going to pay for this atrocity because ignorance and circumstance as happenstance are not a legal defense. If you are liable, you are pliable by law. Just because you did not know or it was unintentional and you did not mean for this to happen, still does not mean that you cannot be held accountable. Whoever is responsible for causing this anguish attack on American soil is at fault regardless their circumstances. You are guilty for the attack on our children, our babies, our unborn babies, our loved ones, our lifestyles, our psyche, and our stability. Accountability action is needed for taking away our mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts and uncles, great-grandparents, great-grand-aunts and uncle. They were at home living their golden years, not bothering anyone in the safe compounds of their homes, just living life day to day in peacetime. You took them away to make matters worse. We did not have a proper farewell. It is evident and reasonable for the guilty party of this epidemic to face consequences. People's lives are not free, and their lives will not be forsaken. Finally, the fourth phase is to wage a first-class lawsuit on behalf of the ones that was hit the hardest and those whom were affected the most: the African American communities, the Latino communities, the elderly, and their families community, essential workers, their family, and the community they reside in and around. If you are liable, you are a complaint under the law. I am genuinely grateful for you taking time to listen to this explanation of this fourth phase pact and contract to get this legislation enacted and passed, the American Safety Act of 2020. Thank you.